It's been around for a really long time, but it's becoming increasingly popular, and more people want to know, how does a past life regression work? So a past life regression happens when you still your mind, quiet your mind. So that part of you that's like, this is really weird. Did I forget to feed the cat this morning? Who is this lady? What's happening? Like, that part never goes away, okay? So the practices, and this is actually pan-globally in all meditation traditions, is the practice of quieting that chatter, right? And it's a practice. Some of these meditation techniques, talk about like the no mind or this. I think it's really intimidating. I've never achieved no mind. I think I'd probably poof and vanish into, I don't know. I probably wouldn't be here if I could achieve that. It kind of sets you up for that. It's an achievement of some sort, where it's not. It's a practice. So a practice over many lifetimes, even. So, and like I said, depending on what you ate for breakfast today or what you came in here today bringing, that practice will be more challenging. Some people are worried, like, is the babysitter going to text me? What's going on? So we quiet our minds and tap into the unconscious, the subconscious. And the premise is that's where our memories lie. Our memories from this and previous lifetimes, and perhaps even representing our untapped potential, perhaps our future. And one of my Native American teachers talks about this. She says that the past, present, and future are all happening concurrently. And it's interesting, quantum physics is starting to show that this is indeed true, that what ancient people taught, that time does not move as we perceive it, where it's like, there's this moment, and now there's this moment. Those moments actually all happened at once. So in this unconscious part of ourselves, which I believe is that part of us that we call the soul, the eternal part of us, is containing all of this DNA of our past and our present and our future. So one of my things, in my life coaching practice, I help people create their future. It sounds counterintuitive. A past life expert helps you create the future. Your future is not determined. Like I said, there's seeds to your destiny and your potential, that DNA inside of you, but the things in our past that are holding us back, whether they're from our past lives, and I'll talk about specifically what those things can be in a little bit, that are holding us back from who we're becoming. Because, who really cares, unless you're an archaeologist, which is cool, I like that, but it's really the present and then the future we're creating that matter the most. So the way that it works when I do my one-on-one regressions is exactly what I'm going to do today in this group. I guide you to a specific place in your unconscious mind. Your job is to quiet your mind. I can't do that for you. Although, like I said, the people who think hypnosis is like actually Jedi powers, I could be like, you're all quieting your minds. That's your job. I'm guiding you to a specific place with a specific intent to uncover specific material, okay? So that said, I'm not also in charge of what you're going to uncover as well. Some people come to me, I need to know if I was in the Civil War. Well, if that's what you're meant to find out, that's what you'll find out. So, I'm opening the door. It's your job to walk through it, and what you experience is up to you. So the way I do that is I kind of have this hodgepodge of guided imagery I use. There's the light and there's some stairs. I'll go through exactly before I do it, I'll tell everyone exactly what I'm going to do before I do it. But that's how we uncover memories from our past life, by finding that place of stillness, okay? Do I have anyone with questions so far? No?
Michelle, does that always have to be guided, or can one achieve that practice alone?
Great question. No, you don't need me. I actually, I had my own experiences with my past lives when I first got into this. And actually, my first past life regression is the one that was in Dr. Brian Weiss's newest book called Miracles Happen. I had that experience on stage in front of 500 people. I went home afterwards. He has a CD. That's a meditation CD that he's guiding. I practice with it. Now I've practiced so much that if I meet someone that I suspect I know from a past life, I meditate on it. It's meditation practice, and it is personal. So I kind of am more of a meditation teacher than a regressionist, if that makes sense. Does anybody else have any questions at this point? Does anyone have any answers? Okay. Yeah, I once got an email from someone who told me that they were looking for a great spiritual teacher, and I was like, dude, if you find one, please let me know, because I'm looking for one too. You know, I mean, I think that we all, I mean, the only reason I'm sitting up here and you guys are there is because I've had this experience, and you guys have all had experiences that I haven't had. I believe we're here to teach each other. So this is kind of what I'm teaching, is just this specific experience. So why would we do a past life regression? Why would anyone bother? Now, obviously, you're all here today because you kind of thought that it might be relevant to you somehow. But there are some practical applications to doing this work, to uncovering your past lives. And your past lives end up being stories. Stories, right? I was so-and-so in a past life, and I was this in a past life. I recently had lunch with, Brian Weiss's daughter, who does this work as well, and 2 other people who are colleagues, and we were kind of like, oh, one time when I was in Italy, like, oh, was that last summer? No, in the 15th century. When you do this work like long enough, it ends up being, it feels very real, for me. And at this point, I've done this work extensively myself. I've uncovered more than 40 of my own past lives, which sounds exhausting, and it has been, that just is how much work I needed to do on myself, how much healing I needed to go through, and how much of my life I needed to change. So when I first got into this work, I was in a marriage I needed to get out of. I was living in a place, I was completely on the wrong path, so I had to go back and through my past lives have this healing, this understanding happen to kind of get to where I am. And also to, when I work with people, I've been there, so it kind of serves me a little bit, but it's a long journey through many lifetimes, and however much you need to know, some people don't need to know that much because they're doing just fine. I wasn't. So one of the reasons that we would want to do a past life regression, and I say this to a lot of people, it's one thing to read something and to believe it, and it's another thing to experience it directly. So maybe many of you are here today because you believe in past lives, you believe that that's true, but have you experienced it? That's different. Then it becomes your own truth. And I believe truth to be a personal concept. What's true for me might not be true for you. So this is an opportunity to kind of find your own truth. Most people leave a private session with me scratching their head like, I don't know if we ever can definitively prove the existence of past lives. This is my life's work, and I'm still relatively young. If we can, I'm on board. I don't know if we can. They leave kind of going, that was really, kind of strange. But yet, everyone leaves knowing what it meant in their life right now. So perhaps, you remembered being a pirate in a past life. And you're kind of like, I really love the Pirates of the Caribbean. I go to the Bahamas, and I've been into that museum, the pirate ship, that's the museum, which my 7-year-old son loves. That might make sense to you on a certain level. It's one thing to kind of believe that you were a pirate in a past life, or go to a psychic and a psychic tells you that. And it's another thing to experience it directly. So to smell the sea air, to feel, the swaying of the boat. This is a multi-sensory experience. Some people have physical sensation, hot, cold. Certainly, though, the emotion, what it felt like to be that pirate, So that's kind of one thing to discover your own truth, I think, is a really important part of it. And a lot of people come in, with something specific in mind that they want to uncover, and that's kind of the side effect. They're like, wow, it deepens your belief. So then there's also an understanding that happens. Like I said, on a surface level, okay, maybe you like Indian food or you hate sushi. Understanding why we do things. And this kind of is a segment too that could also be its own whole workshop of the power of the unconscious mind, how the unconscious mind rules our lives. They say that we use 10% of our brains. I've heard 12. I don't know how much, but that is a whole lot of space that we're not using. That actually rules most of our behavior. The things that we like, dislike, the things we're just kind of doing unconsciously. So the idea behind a past life regression is to go and make the unconscious conscious. Then you're understanding. You know, this is why I worked with a girl last week who just moved to New York and she can't ride the subway. She just can't do it. And you can't live in New York if you can't ride the subway. It's just, she had panic attacks, would have like severe symptoms even. And so she would understand that there was a story that happened to her in a past life. The story connected with that was actually that she was working, building the railroad and was using explosives to kind of, explode the rock and was digging underneath and had gotten trapped. So that underground stone train, these things were kind of triggering it. By understanding that, she was able to heal it. So one of the biggest practical applications are people with phobias, okay? So phobias are one of those things like you don't know why you do it. Like I said, this is the unconscious part of us. And sometimes we think, okay, it's a little bit funny, but for people who are dealing with these things, I mean, like people who have an inexplicable fear of sharp objects. I mean, these are things that completely rule their lives, keep them from enjoying the present, right? I work with a lot of people who have claustrophobia issues, strange ones even, like, that make no sense, but then when you find the past life story with it, then it makes sense. People heal phobias quickly. I mean, I've had people who have dealt with things their entire lives in 20 minutes, it's gone. I've had now 5 people's therapists call me and ask me what I did. And I tell them, I say, I don't know how it worked, but this is what happened. Their mind was able to heal itself. And I believe that all healing is actually self-healing, that we do heal ourselves. So the phobias are a big thing. Emotional issues, we all have them, right? I mean, it's part of being human. On the other side, it's nice, it's blissful. We're here to challenge ourselves. And with that comes the emotion. Emotion is really actually, in my opinion, what makes us human, right? We're in spirit form, we don't have, desire, anger, these kinds of things. So that's part of being in physical form. So, but we're able to, when we can tap into that part of ourselves that is eternal, we're able to take that and use it right now to be more evolved versions of ourselves, right? So people who are masters over their emotions, that's part of what we're here to learn how to do, right? The Dalai Lama, I mean, I don't know if he has a bad day. He probably does, but he moves it through him. So, we're working on that, right? It's kind of like we'll get there sometime. But that's kind of the emotional aspect where it's kind of like, this is why I get really triggered by rage in these situations. If it comes from a past life, then you can let it go, and then you're no longer getting those triggers. So one of the biggest reasons people come to me is relationships. This is the area of soulmates. I could do a whole 4-hour thing on soulmates too. I believe that our personal relationships are the hardest part about being human, okay? So you can go live on a mountain somewhere and meditate all day, right? try living in Manhattan, raising kids and having friends and you know, or dating or being married. You know, these are difficult things to master. And I think part of the biggest lessons that we learn come through other beings that cross our paths. So when we can go back and use the past life story, we're able to more consciously navigate these relationships. There's a deep level of understanding that can come from knowing the backstory, I guess. So soulmates, we have many. I think a lot of people have this stereotype of like, you know, there's the one person that will complete you. In my work, both myself and with other people, I've really found that that's not true. We have many, many soulmates of many different types. So some people that are like, you know, the guy that dumped me in college, he was my soulmate, that's it for me. That is not how it works at all. We attract people to us, not just romantic relationships, but all relationships. Hi. You know, of different types, parents, siblings, friends. Every person that crosses our path is a potential soulmate. You know, that's probably a little too much to focus on when you're kind of like walking down the streets of Manhattan. You're like, hello, soulmate. Hello, soulmate. Hello. How can I serve you? You know, it's too much. But sometimes, you know, it helps to go in and have a story with someone who you have a particular difficult time dealing with. Oh, you know, I worked with a husband and wife who they were renewing their vows, and they wanted to kind of, and I was like, okay, I can't guarantee you're going to find each other in each other's past lives. But they said, you know, I want to know if I'm married to my soulmate. The answer is yes, you are, because you married them. You know, there's something there. It doesn't mean that, you know, you have to have like 400 past lives together. But their issue that they were working out was one of them had gone to war and never come back, and the other one had thought that they were abandoned. So they had all these like kind of weird codependency things that they knew didn't belong to them. They were like, we're much more grounded than this, but for whatever reason, when he goes to work, I feel so insecure. He's not going to come home. He's going to leave me. You know, they were kind of unable to unravel that contract, that agreement between them through doing this work. So, you know, there's also the good soulmates, these people that kind of come along to help us, to support us, to love us, and to show us what love looks like in physical form. We're here to experience love. We're here to give, but also to receive love as well. So sometimes we just meet that soulmate where you're like, okay, I can just relax. Sometimes they're romantic, sometimes they're not. You know, I think most of us can track, you know, a certain family member, certain grandparent that was special, you know, a friend that feels like a sibling. These, I call them soul family mates, right? It's kind of, I don't know if I made up that term, I just started using it. It's kind of our soul family, and we do reincarnate together. It's really amazing when people start talking to me about their soulmate stories. You can be born all the way across the world from somebody, and destiny brings you to cross each other's paths, and it's like you just left yesterday, you know, like we all have that experience of this meeting that feels magical. And they're not just romantic. One of my closest friends who actually lives in Seattle, the first time I met her, like we were on this big group, we were on a kind of a triple date. And you know, nobody even knows any of those people anymore other than her and I. And our heads just went together, and right away, it wasn't like, oh, where are you from? You know, where'd you go to school to study? It was just, we started talking about deep things that mattered right away. It was a deep, meaningful connection. And years later, you know, she's still a really important soulmate to me. So we look for this kind of in our romance, right? We tell these romance stories like that. You see the person and the music stops and the little violins are playing in your ear, you know. It's that stereotype, the soulmate meeting. It's not just romantic, but it can be. And sometimes when we're doing this past life work, you'll see someone in your past life that you feel a connection to, and it's a romantic connection. I've had, I lost track, I have 9 weddings that have happened from people, and I haven't been doing this in 6 years. That's a lot. People who were single, who came to me wanting to know if there's ever anyone out there for them, and then saw someone in their past life, and then later met them. Now, chances are, if you do see someone in your past life that is a romantic, that you feel a strong connection to, I even hear people describe it's someone they miss. Like I just wish I missed them. I wish I could talk to them. Chances are, if you do see that, you will meet that person. Because I just don't think our spirit guides and destiny is that cruel to kind of be like dangling the carrot, like, here's the greatest soulmate of the millennium. Oh, but you're not going to meet them in this life. You know, I don't think it would show you something different, right? So 9 weddings. I have six babies now. I had 5, and there were 6 actually the other day, were people who were looking to conceive, but had died in a past life in childbirth, and then after removing that fear, were able to get pregnant. So, you know, this is rewarding work as far as what I see people, you know, step into in their future by getting rid of the stuff in their past. So, yeah, the soulmate thing is really interesting, and there's always kind of a story that can help you navigate that relationship. Our relationships kind of are mirrors back to ourselves, right? We see in our partner everything that we hate about ourselves. So finding that story helps us to more consciously deal with them, but then we're doing the work on ourselves as well. So we're kind of evolving, and relationships are really, really hard work. Anyone who's ever been married can tell you that. It's very, very difficult to stay present, open, compassionate, yet keeping the focus on yourself. So past life work is a really powerful tool to kind of help navigate relationships.